second infrastructure project relates to the contract for the construction of an access road and car park.
Federal Executive Council approves more funds for critical road infrastructure.
About 533 million will be used for the procurement of drugs and equipment to the Nigerian police personnel.
House of Reps approves 11 billion naira for police trust fund.
Sultan of Sokoto visits National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACOM, in Abuja.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the National Cyber Security Policy and Strategy 2021.
Now, technological advancements have resulted in a variety of breakthroughs or preponderance of which has been evident over the last decade by the growth of information and communication technology and the evolution of the ICT.
Well, these ICT-driven developments have resulted in heavy dependence on the cyber domain. In Nigeria, for instance, the evolution of ICT has been at such an accelerated pace since the turn of the 21st century.
You know, that's right, Kingsley. The country has predominantly embraced ICT to drive new initiatives and reach new milestones. A reflection of this is apparent in the high rate of adoption of new technologies, the proliferation of foreign-based technology conglomerates in the Nigerian market, as well as the rising number of indigenous technology firms across the country.
Essentially, Jumai, the Nigerian economy, government functions and essential services now rely heavily on the availability and integrity of cyberspace. Now, this new digital era presents significant opportunities to enhance Nigeria's resilience for global economic competitiveness and repositioning for national development.
That's correct, Kingsley. However, there are several downsides attributed to the widespread use of the cyber domain, which have profound implications for the nation's security and economic well-being.
That's true, Jumai. Now, from the threats posed by cybercrime and cyber terrorism to the dangers emanating from cyber espionage and the use of the internet or social media for the propagation, for instance, of hate speech, as well as the risks of breaches of sensitive personal and government data, it's almost impossible to overstate the challenges with regard to cybersecurity.
Yes, and it cannot be overemphasized in a bid to address these multifaceted cyber threats and embolden the country for efficient and progressive use of the cyber domain. The federal government of Nigeria, through the Office of the National Security Advisor, undertook several proactive steps to draw the necessary cybersecurity roadmap for Nigeria.
Now, the national framework, codified as the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy, sets the clear direction for the coordination of Nigeria's cybersecurity engagements in recognition of cyberspace as a critical domain and as part of efforts to protect national interests and sovereignty, ultimately, of Nigeria.
And this is also very important, with the Nigeria ranking 57th in the Global Cybersecurity Index. President Muhammadu Buhari, at the launch of the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy 2021 document 2 days ago, said it signifies the renewal of his promise and commitment to Nigeria's national security and economic prosperity.
Now, the maiden National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy was developed in 2014, and it set the direction for the coordination of national engagement in cyberspace over the past 6 years.
Now, with this policy in place, how has the journey been so far? What is the situation with our cyberspace? This is our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. I am Juma Yusuf. Thanks so much for joining us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. I joined my colleague Jumai to also welcome you to the program. In addition to the issues raised a moment ago by Jumai, we shall also be looking at some of the contents of the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy. What does it entail for all stakeholders? Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the network service of Africa's largest television network, the Nigerian Television Authority. As usual, in the course of the program, we have our complimentary segments, and these include newspaper review, business, and others. For now, we join our colleague Musbao Don Wahab for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Musbao.
It's a very good morning, Kinsley and Jumai. The news. The Federal Executive Council has approved another tranche of fund over 8 billion naira for the construction and rehabilitation of critical roads infrastructure in the Federal Capital Territory. FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello, who announced these while briefing newsmen on the Council's resolution, said over 372 million naira is also to be expended on the purchase of needed equipment for enhanced safety in the city.
The project relates to the contract for the construction of an access road and car park for the Abuja Light Rail Station at Ring Road 2, otherwise known as Kukuaba Station. The intention is that by the opening of that road, that railway station will be made functional, and then commuters can use the station either when they visit the national park there or when they want to have access to the Kukuaba district.
From the National Assembly, as the House of Representatives says, personnel of the Nigerian police force can be the best in the world when they are well equipped with state-of-the-art crime-fighting tools and provided the necessary training. This prompted express approval of more than 11 billion naira to the Nigeria Police Trust Fund.
About 533 million will be used for the procurement of drugs and equipment to the Nigerian police personnel who are the end users, which form part of the core mandate of the Police Trust Fund.
Issues ranging from financial strength of people aspiring to go to the Holy Land and their welfare have resonated when the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sa'ad Abubakar, visited the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, in Abuja.
Alhamdulillah, so far in the commission here, for the third chairman we are having, we haven't had these serious problems here and there. But all we want to do is to encourage one another.
The scheme shall ease Hajj enrollment for Nigerian pilgrims in such a way that even the poorest among Muslims can afford to fulfill a lifetime ambition to perform Hajj through gradual savings.
Now, before we take this story, viewers' discretion is advised. 10 persons have died and 60 others sustained various degrees of injury following terror attack on Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, by the Boko Haram insurgents. Governor Babagana Umar Zulum was at University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, a specialist hospital, to sympathize with the injured.
Our effort of ensuring or bringing lasting peace and stability in the state. The only possible solution is for us to deploy technology and then detect any incoming persons into the town.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 655 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The latest figures released bring the total number of confirmed cases to 153,824 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases from 21 states indicate that Lagos recorded the highest number for the day with 240 new cases, while Ogun has 88 new cases. Others are Rivers State with 56, FCT 51, Kaduna 43, Kano 25, Plateau 21, Taraba 19, Edo 17, and Abia 15. Delta State recorded 13 new cases. Nasarawa has 11, Akwa Ibom, Kwara, and Oyo have 10 cases each. Kebbi 9, Borno 5. Bayelsa and Gombe states recorded 4 new cases each, while the day's tally is completed by Ekiti and Osun having 2 new cases each. Breakdown of confirmed cases by states indicate that Lagos has the highest with 55,1 19,122, followed by the FCT with 19,115, while Plateau comes third with 854 cases. With the latest development, 130,818 cases have been successfully treated and discharged, while 1,818 patients have died, unfortunately, from the virus. And that concludes the morning news on Good Morning Nigeria. The program will continue in just moments with Kingsley and Jumai.
I bring you wonderful news. The village headmaster is coming back to your screen. Teacher,
Ajebo na better school for last giddy. Not be all this on a rugged yes school for Ijabi. I don't know for you.
Second, it's called Oja Village. Kadesi, we no happy at all.
And I know that even you too, you are getting a lot of orders. Hey, we are trying, shao. Sweep her leg out. She was standing there. Sweep it.
I love you so much.
And how did I give you the impression that I was interested in that position?
50-year anniversary.
You mean anniversary?
I talk with that now.
Not for me. Not for me because of Pamio.
In my house, we may look alike, but we are very different individuals. My adorable twins, they look so alike, but they don't like wearing the same things. And my little man, he loves to learn his own way because doing things his way is more fulfilling. Everybody believes their way is best. That's why Golden Penny Pasta is our favorite meal. It allows me to satisfy everybody just the way they want it.
Golden Penny Pasta, made with durum wheat, is tasty, nutritious, a source of protein and fiber. Golden Penny Pasta, your way is best.
For over 70 years, we've practiced healthy hygiene habits together. The world needs us to keep our fight going against germs. So let's wash our hands for 20 seconds regularly. Dettol. Protect what's worth fighting for.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
Brum continue their fight to survive relegation when they welcome Brighton to the Hawthorns. This Saturday, it's West Bromwich Albion versus Brighton and Hove on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 3:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up in association with Gold.com.
Thanks for rejoining us. Cashew exporters laud federal government's initiative to improve its value chain. Let's join Kunle Adeye for details.
The federal government recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the United States Department of Agriculture West Africa Pro-Cashew project with the primary objective of boosting the subsector of agriculture. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Sabo Nanono, disclosed that Nigeria earned $500 million from cashew export, while between 300,000 and 500,000 families benefited from this. The Association of Cashew Aggregators and Processors of Nigeria has described federal government's action as a welcome development.
I think the only thing left to say, per se, is we thank the Federal Ministry of Agric and Rural Development that this year, that the Federal Ministry of Agric and Natural Resources signed an MOU with the United States Department of Agriculture to develop. That is a good way to go.
They, however, called for improvements in the area of access to farmlands. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeye.
Thank you, Kunle, for that package. Up next is Newspaper Review.
Well, Bayo Toby is in the studio. Good morning, Bayo.
Thank you, Juma. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Good morning, Kinsley. Good
Hi,
morning,
Bayo.
Nigeria.
Good to see you. Yes.
So we're starting with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, and just below the masthead, we have cattle dealers begin strike today. You find details on page 3. On page 5, gunmen kill 4 policemen in Anambra. Details on page 12. Fulani, not terrorists, coming from the Sultan of Sokoto. You find all that on page 4. The headlines there you see, why Kagara abductees remain in custody 8 days later. With kickers, bandit wants 6 colleagues released. Employ all means to rescue victims, from the former president of Nigeria, IBB military president, and Abdusalami Abubakar. Gunmen kill 18 in 2 Kaduna local government areas. Northern governors meet in Kaduna. And you can see the picture there, a displaced family from Banaga in Talata Mafara local government area taking refuge in a makeshift shelter in Mayachi Maru local government area of Zamfara state. At the bottom plate of the Daily Trust newspaper, death toll hits 16 in Maiduguri attack. You find details on page 7. Workers' ground activities at CSC NIPC. Details on page 20. I will bring Obaseki back to APC. Akeredolu. Details on page 35. Court jails mother of 3 for stealing kids. As children, you find the details on page 29. Kinsley. Ayo.
Right. Let's start with the running story about Maiduguri. Governor Babagana Zulum has visited victims of the terrorist attack on Maiduguri Tuesday evening. The death toll has increased to 16. Initially it was 10, but 3 died on the late Tuesday evening, and by Wednesday morning another 3 died, bringing the total deaths now to 16. 47 persons were injured. It may be recalled that the terrorists fired rocket-propelled grenade into densely populated Gwangi and Adam Kolo area. One of the shots hit children who were playing football in the ground. 9 of them were said to have been killed. After visiting the UMTH, University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, and the Specialty Hospital, Governor Babagana Zulum said that, well, they will use technology as a means of a solution. This will be deployed appropriately to tackle the new challenge. Most of the deaths that were recorded occurred in Gombe. Among those who were injured is a 75-year-old Kakamalam, a widower who has 14 children. He sustained injuries at the mosque on his leg and on his buttocks. Another one included a student of Ramat Polytechnic, Maiduguri. In Delta State, gunmen have waylaid a bullion van and killed a police officer, 2 traders in the process of robbery. The bullion van is said to belong to a bank, and it was moving along Ubulu Okiti Road. They overpowered the policemen who were with the van, shot one of them and 2 other passers-by, female traders, and emptied the van. The police are on their trail. And in Abia, the Abia State Police Command said they have arrested 8 members of the gang of hoodlums who attacked Abayi Police Station in Aba. The hoodlums, numbering over 200, armed with AK-47 rifles and machete, attacked the Abayi Police Station. The Assistant Superintendent of Police and the sergeant were killed. 4 of the hoodlums were also neutralized. The spokesman for the police headquarters, Commissioner of Police Frakumba, says that the Inspector General of Police has already commiserated with the relatives of the deceased officer. Rotimi Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Mr. Lucky Ayedatiwa were sworn in yesterday for the second term of their tenure. At the inauguration for the second term, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu outlined his administration's policy, which he classified as REDEEM. And the REDEEM is an acronym for rural and agricultural development, educational advancement, and human capacity development, as well as massive infrastructure and effective healthcare. Other area that he mentioned that will be concentrated upon is law and order. And he said his administration will make Ondo State safe for residents as well as visitors. He thanked President Muhammadu Buhari and other party leaders. In attendance at the swearing-in ceremony were governors of Ekiti, Lagos, Ogun, Osun, as well as Edo State. That was where he made the remark that he's going to make bold initiative to bring Governor of Edo State, Obaseki, back to the APC fold. Yes. The Senate of the Federal Republic has screened and confirmed Abdulrashid Bawa as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He was grilled by the Senate for 2 hours, and 19 senators posed various questions to him. And he clarified 2 controversial issues about him. First is whether he was qualified. He said he was eminently qualified based on the Constitution and the Act establishing the Economic and Financial Crime, which stipulates that officers have powers, authority, privileges, and rights like police officer. He said he had joined the commission since 2004 and has put in at least 15 years of experience. He also dispels allegations that he has sold assets. He clarified that not even the chairman of the commission can authorize sale of assets. It is the prerogative of the secretary of the commission. And he also said he has never been arrested. In fact, he said when Ibrahim Magu, the erstwhile acting chairman, heard announcement about his nomination, he called him to congratulate him. He said, if confirmed by the Senate, we are sure that they will be more transparent, more accountable, and fair to all. The Deputy Senate President said, based on his eloquent presentation and brilliance showcase, he called for his confirmation. Until his appointment, Abdul Rashid Bawa headed the Port Harcourt office of the Economic and Financial Crime Commission. COVID-19, well, thanks to Providence, the numbers are declining, but Nigeria is still not out of the wood. 655 cases were recorded yesterday in 20 states of the Federation. Lagos is still high, recording 240 cases. Ogun came second with 88, Rivers 56, FCT 51. There were 11 deaths yesterday so far, total 153,842 cases. Our death toll is now 1,885. We have 21,139 of our compatriots who are undergoing treatment. Meanwhile, in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde yesterday ordered the reopening of Shasha Market. He gave the directive during the peace meeting with leaders of the Hausa and Yoruba communities. The governor said the reopening was the interest of the true traders, and for peace and harmony to reign. He said even at the peak of coronavirus, he did not close the market because there are people who work there on daily basis, and it is the little they make that they depend upon to fend for the next day. He has also ordered that the temporary market that was open elsewhere should be shut so that Shasha market can continue.
Bayo, you know, the death toll in Maiduguri just keeps going higher and higher. And I always tell people whenever there's a power disruption in Maiduguri, that is when they come in. It's like it's a deliberate thing. They bring down the electricity. Everywhere is in total darkness, and they're moving. You know, and I think there should be proactive measures too. When things like this happen, people should know that because it's a reoccurrence of happenings, you know, over the years, that this is what happens when there's no power in Maiduguri. I think that needs to be looked into by the power sector.
Thank you for giving us the benefit of your experience in Maiduguri. But it's critical. For a long time, they've not been able to intrude into Maiduguri because of the safe provision by the military. But this time around, because there's pressure on them in the outskirts, they are losing ground, and therefore, to establish their presence, they need to make this kind of forays to show that we are still in action. But worldwide, terrorists are very difficult to defeat. Those of them who evaluated the situation by conventional warfare and said that, look, they were having 17 local governments. Now that they are not holding any local government at all, so they have been technically defeated. It is not like that. They are still coming into societies and killing people. It is very common especially towards Adamawa, scaling over to between Adamawa and Borno, especially in the Chibok area. Every now and then there are forays, and unless you can stem them coming from wherever their hideouts is coming to attack, we will continue to have casualties. And once there are casualties, you cannot convince Nigerians that the war is over.
Yes, we just hope that it just stops there, because I think they are going house to house search with sniffer dogs, you know, to fish out these people. They are there, you know. It's so unfortunate, actually. And, you know, the topic we're going to discuss today is all about using technology to curb criminality, you know, hate speech and all that. Well, let's see how it goes.
Yes.
We hope it stops here, yes.
A lot would depend on society. Like Chris pointed out yesterday, apparently they are embedded.
Yes, they are.
And they are having collaboration with citizens.
Sympathizers within the citizens and all that. Okay. It's all about money.
Well, congratulations to the new EFCC chairman. There is a saying that life begins at 40, and he's 40 years old. But I'm sure those who watched the proceedings yesterday would have observed some mannerism of the new EFCC chairman. He was alone at the podium, at the lectern, when he was being grilled by the distinguished senators. But I'm sure you would also have observed that he kept adjusting the microphone. So if it was as if somebody else who was taller or shorter had come to the mic, then you will understand why he would adjust it. I lost count of the number of times that, you know, he was adjusting the...
Yes, he was a bit nervous. It's not easy to
I wouldn't know whether he was nervous, but probably it's a mannerism which he will have to unlearn. You know, as I said, life begins at 40. There is never an end to learning. So each time you saw him adjusting the microphone. So those of us who are in the business, who are used to microphones, you just know what to do. I mean, if it was a handheld mic, it would be otherwise. But as we said, congratulations to him, and we expect the very best.
I think, like you might say, it's a mannerism. You remember Peter Enahoro on Network News? When he's reading news, Mike Enahoro. When he's reading news, you see him hopping up like so everybody does have their mannerism. I won't tell you what you are.
Like I go with, you know, like when I'm reading the news, I go like this.
I would also tell you what yours is. The viewers know that.
Mine is my pen. You know, when I'm reading the news, I go like this. You know,
that's right.
It's so cautious.
Yeah, we're all human beings. I mean, the thing is to try to conceal it as much as possible, so it doesn't become an issue. But of course, he has some years ahead of him. So you have other headlines on the front page of the Punch. Government agencies failed to remit 1 trillion naira, says Fiscal Responsibility Commission. That's page 17. Nigeria loses 151.78 billion naira crude oil monthly, says NNPC. So you're making that kind of loss and nothing apparently is being done about it. We keep hearing about all these losses. At some point, we were told that, no, Nigeria couldn't be losing this much because there are metering ways, there are oversight functions undertaken usually by the DPR. So, but why are we reporting it? How can we be losing 151 billion naira of crude oil every month? So once the crude oil runs out, what will we be losing? Air or what? All right, Bauer defense graft allegation gets Senate confirmation as EFCC chair. That headline, we've already discussed that. I'm afraid Malami won't let Bauer succeed. Sage, senior advocate of Nigeria. I'm sure they will sort that one out subsequently. CAC says protests illegal as NLC grounds operations. And lopsided appointments affecting Nigeria's unity. That's according to Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria. Metu recounts demonic prison experience, says he will serve God. That's on page 12, and we're in the Lenten season. So, Bauchi releases 32 million naira to vaccinate 800,000 cows. Maiduguri explosion survivors recount close shave with death. Court frees Kano woman arraigned for killing house help. Bandits raid Kaduna local governments, kill 19, and NAF hits gunmen.
Well, the running story still...
Bayo, actually, we're running out of time. That's all for today. Thank you so much for coming.
All right.
We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will begin.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
For over 70 years, we've practiced healthy hygiene habits together. The world needs us to keep our fight going against germs. So let's wash our hands for 20 seconds regularly. Dettol. Protect what's worth fighting for.
The broadcast media ecosystem is dynamic and requires continuous training for practitioners to perform optimally. NTA TV College Jos invites relevant officers to the following specially packaged training programs. Intermediate online news reporting skills. Date 1st March to 12th March 2021. 2 weeks. Studio lighting indoor and outdoor. Date 1st March to 5th March 2021. 1 week. Modern trends in broadcast media marketing. Date 15th March to 9th April 2021. 4 weeks. Understanding public service rules and mastering the art of standard minute writing, reports, memoranda, and briefs. Date 15th February to 12th March 2021. 4 weeks. The course fee for the 4-week courses is 100,000 naira per participant. The fee for the 2-week course is 80,000 naira, while the course fee for the 1-week course is 40,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue for all the courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
The second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is upon us.
To safeguard lives of our people, government has signed the Health Protection Regulations, which makes wearing a face mask mandatory in public places.
Wear a mask. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. And use hand sanitizer.
COVID-19 is real. Do not be infected. do not spread it. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
West Brom continue their fight to survive relegation when they welcome Brighton to the Hawthorns. This Saturday, it's West Bromwich Albion versus Brighton and Hove on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 3:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up in association with Gold.com.
I see the way you have been fresh with Juma.
Well, you're welcome back. To begin our conversation, let's take the background report by Kule Ade.
When talking about ICT compliance, which is also being digitally connected, Nigeria is one of the leading nations in Africa and occupies 57th position in the Global Cybersecurity Index. It has also been established that a larger chunk of Nigeria's population of 200 million people is active on the internet. The outbreak of COVID-19, advent of 5G technology, and climate change have had significant impact on cybersecurity. From national to continental and global level, active internet users are continually on the rise. Some of the spillovers like cybercrime, cyberterrorism, online child abuse, online gender exploitation, pandemic-induced cyber threats, election interference, and other cyber threats are now of concern to Nigeria. Consequently, the federal government launched the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy 2021, where President Muhammadu Buhari emphasized his administration's commitment to national security and economic prosperity.
The Office of the National Security Advisor is to continue to coordinate the efforts of all stakeholders to ensure that our internet and cyberspace are used for the enhancement of national security and economic progression.
The Office of the National Security Advisor also reiterated to frontally tackle all risks associated with exposure to the internet. Is it the right time to come up with such policy? Will it equally prevent unscrupulous elements from using the cyberspace to perpetrate their activities? Guests are waiting on Good Morning Nigeria to give more insight.
Thank you, Kunle Adeyeye, for that background. With us in the studios now to provide more insight, let's welcome Abdul Hakim Ajijola. Abdul Hakim, of course, is the chair, Nigerian National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy Review Committee. He's also the chair of the African Union of Cybersecurity Expert Group, based in Addis Ababa. Abdul Hakim Ajijola, delighted to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Also with us in the studios, we would like to welcome Dr. Uche Mbanaso. He is Executive Director, Center for Cyberspace Studies at Nasarawa State University in Kefi. Dr. Mbanaso, pleasure to have you this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And joining us via Zoom is Dr. Bayaro Agabi. He's the President, Center for Cyber Awareness and Development. He's also the Vice President, Nigeria Internet Group. It's good to have you join us again on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, gentlemen, again, I'm delighted to have you with us on the program this morning. Some persons will say this is a fairly technical area, but we are all users of cyberspace, as it were, today, and our life isn't the same any longer since ICT took over the global stage. But why have or even review a cyber security policy and strategy? Abdul Hakim.
Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, as you know, this is a very fast-moving and evolving sector. And the 2015 policy and strategy, which actually was drafted in 2014 but was approved in, I think, March 2015, gave itself a 5-year lifespan, which is actually in line with global good practice. And so, and similarly to this document has a 5-year lifespan. And the whole idea is that within that period, it is expected that new issues will arise. And certainly we have seen not just new issues, but new levels of people using the technology.
So, again, the question is, Dr. Mbanaso, why have a policy, why have a strategy?
Thank you. I think, first of all, let me appreciate Mr. President and the National Security Advisor for the speedy response to this cybersecurity policy and strategy. It is very, very timely. So coming back to your question, the essence of cybersecurity policy and strategy is to have a document, a comprehensive document, as a live document you can work with, as a part of planning, as a part of a strategy, as a part of way to improve safe and secure cyberspace. You all know that if you don't articulate your points, it will be ad hoc. So cybersecurity policy and strategy is a very vital document that can help the country to provide an enabling environment for safe and secure cyberspace.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's now join Dr. Bayero Agabi from on our Zoom. And you've had the questions casely posed to our two guests in the studio. Let's have your view and opening statement on the new cybersecurity policy and strategy 2021.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and I'd like to say good morning to my bosses there in the studio. We've worked together on several committees regarding cybersecurity and cybersecurity issues. For this, when I heard of it and I went looking for it, and I saw that it was the right thing and the right time for Nigeria, at least for the first time, we're taking a holistic look on how to harmonize cyber issues in Nigeria so that we can have what is called cyber peace and cyber harmony. What do I mean by that? We have a country now that everyone can go on the cyberspace and become irresponsible. Because I have always said that anything that is unlawful, anything that is unlawful, outside the cyberspace should be lawful, should be unlawful on the cyberspace. So if you can off the cyberspace, not insult anyone, you should do that, on the cyberspace. And then I took a look at the policy and some of the key things that I saw, like the issue of the critical national infrastructure. That one is long overdue, and now is be done. And I see the one of it rests on 8 pillars, and one of them is also strengthening, cyber governance. And then I also saw the one of on international collaboration, because cybersecurity is not a one-man game. It's not a one-country game. So you have to collaborate and to see how you can secure your own digital platform, especially as Nigeria, all sectors, are going digital. We have to go with this kind of policy. And it's a good one for me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bayero Agabi. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Back to Abdul Hakim Ajijola. What are the main pillars of the policy and strategy?
As Bayero had said, there are 8 of them. So in summary, basically you're looking at a governance pillar, how we will manage our responses, but I use responses in quote because actually it's about being proactive, not just reactive. We also need to, as Bayero had correctly said, things relating to critical national information infrastructure. We have to be able to identify them. Then once you have identified, what do you do to make sure that there's some level of protection? Then we have a pillar that deals with issues related to incident management. When something goes wrong, what do we do? Then, of course, we have some legal and regulatory issues. That's another pillar. And then we have a special pillar on basically defense. How do we, again, naturally you say defend the motherland. but the issue is that in cyberspace, while the user perceives it as borderless, as a nation, those who defend us actually are limited by our jurisdiction. So you can't go, for example, to a neighboring country and interrogate a system there without permission from those who have jurisdiction in the neighboring country. Then we also have a pillar that addresses issues related to economy. Now, of course, we say digital economy, but the truth of the matter is that it's just economy. It's just an extension of our economy. Then we have issues relating to assurance, the monitoring and evaluation, because I think this is one of the challenges we often have. We don't engage in sufficient M&E monitoring and evaluation to determine how well we are doing to benchmark ourselves. And then, as Bairo had correctly said, the issues of cooperation. And so we are looking at global cooperation. Of course, we are looking at regional and continental, but also cooperation among ourselves. So that's another pillar. And then we try to, not really as a pillar, but as one of those general cross-cutting issues, funding and sustainability. The funding issues are that, and again, this goes back to what Bairo has said, government can't do it alone. So how do we bring in, for example, the private sector, bearing in mind that the private sector actually owns much of the infrastructure that's, cyberspace sits on? How do we bring in academia? How do we bring in our researchers? And maybe some funding. There are different funding sources. And of course, even at the international level, what are the funding availabilities?
Okay, the maiden edition of the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy was in 2014. And
15,
yes, 20 years. And in the past 6 years, tell us about the successes that was recorded during that period that in a way paved the way for this new policy that came into place.
Well, I think among the things that I would point out are that there are certain key institutional structures that have been put in place. Within the Office of the National Security Advisor, you have an institution called NGCERT. And basically that is Nigeria Computer Emergency Response Team. And that is the coordination center for all cybersecurity activities within the jurisdiction of Nigeria, bearing in mind, for example, embassies abroad as part of our jurisdiction. Then within the National Information Technology Development Agency, you also have a unit called the Computer Emergency Readiness and Response Team. We've also seen capacities across various sectors where we now have chief information security officers. For example, Central Bank will have, NIMSI has, I believe every single bank in Nigeria. So many public and private sector institutions actually have now put in those structures with designated people. And possibly the most important success, I would say, is that we've now got some academic institutions. For example, FUT Mina is now awarding degrees in cybersecurity. I believe Dr. Mbanaso, the Center for Cybersecurity Studies in Nasarawa State University, are also offering similar qualifications, I think at a slightly higher level, but I leave you to talk about that. But we are also seeing other universities. I think Akure also is offering degrees in these things. So all of this is part of the mix. And so what the 2015 document has done is that I believe it's given us a foundational framework. And again, I must thank those who developed it then, because we are standing on their shoulders.
Okay, Abdul Hakim, thank you very much. Dr. Mbana, so maybe you take that aspect of the question that Abdul Hakim was talking about to say, what do you offer at Nasarawa State University? Do you offer higher degrees in cybersecurity? That's one. But principally, what I would like you to address will be just one of the pillars, because there are 8 of them. What are the issues in cyber governance that you and I and ordinary citizens should be aware of as part of our cybersecurity architecture?
Okay, thank you. Let me start from the last question before I go to the what the Center for Cyberspace Study is doing in terms of building capacity and the pipeline of workforce.
Don't advertise, otherwise our auditors will bill you.
We'll start billing now.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes. First and foremost, governance and coordination is a key element of cybersecurity. You need to establish a well-robust structure of how activities in cybersecurity should be handled. And so the governance, for instance, with this new policy, we have the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center as an improvement over 2014-15, which is a very novel approach. And with that, we see a very tremendous improvement in the way we manage cybersecurity in Nigeria. So why governance is very, very important is the structure and be able to define the responsibilities, be able to define roles, know who is handling what. And so that coordination is very, very vital. Like my friend and the Oracle of Cybersecurity just said, the private sector owns large part of the infrastructure, and how they play their role in managing cybersecurity is very, very vital. Cybersecurity cannot be taken the way we manage national security in the physical world, because what you don't own, you can't control. And so the role of private sector is very, very primary in cybersecurity ecosystem, and that emphasis should be there. How do we actually make sure they are doing what they're supposed to do? Because cybersecurity is a responsibility, and it's a shared responsibility. And so even you as an ordinary user has a responsibility. And so the norm is to be able to protect that that you are trusted to. So your mobile device, how do you protect it? Because they are all connected to the cybersecurity ecosystem. And so that is why governance and coordination is a very key element of cybersecurity. Then coming to the workforce, the Center for Cyberspace Studies was actually created in 2015. And since then, we have been in the forefront of research and development. Incidentally, we are doing research in critical national information infrastructure, which is sponsored by TED Fund, and I'm the principal investigator. We have done a lot of quite innovative things. We've developed tools that can actually help in identifying transparently which infrastructure can be categorized as a critical national infrastructure, against doing it as an ad hoc thing, making it transparent and repeatable so that any organization can plug into it in such a way that is very, very transparent, and it is very, very scientific. Beside that, we have masters in cyber security. We also have PhD in cyber security. We have over 15 students doing research in cybersecurity, and we have over 50 students doing masters in cybersecurity. So in overall, we are trying to ensure that we build capacity and workforce. And by the way, let me just say this. The internet we enjoy today is as a result of research and development. And the only thing that can drive it is research and development. So education, skill sets are very, very key to cybersecurity environment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's now join Dr. Bayero Agabi. A lot of success has been recorded in the digital world in Nigeria, and just last week we got out of recession, and a little bit of it is attributed to digital, to the digital economy. We have, population is key when you want to get a workforce that will, drive this kind of initiative and policy. We have youths in Nigeria who are hungry for knowledge. How do we begin to harness their quest and hunger for knowledge in ICT and bring them under the fold?
Yeah, I think that is a very good one you have asked. But first, NIDA is already doing something in that regard with the NIDA Academy. I think as at the last count, over 2,000 or more, are already captured youth, or already captured in that space. But what thing you should understand is that when we talk about cybersecurity, it's not like studying programming or something like in that sense. It's liquid in form because the growth is usually, very, very exponential and fast. And therefore, the youth that we see today making use of the cyberspace, ought to be coordinated and moderated. And that is one thing that this, policy has also provided for, which is the issue of awareness, which is the issue of skills, and then promoting regulation and cooperation. And then I also saw the one of managing online fraud and all of those things. If all these things are properly managed and coordinated, then we can have a sane environment, and then we can have the kind of skills, that are needed for tomorrow's economy and not training for today's economy. That said, we have a situation where I hinted of, from someone who said this document or this policy is a way of coming through the back door with the social media regulation bill or whatever the case may be. But the way I see this is, very, very far from that, because there is no country that does, that is not trying to have a sane environment or a sane cyberspace. For instance, the United Kingdom is doing it through Ofcom, that is just a broadcast regulator. And then even in Germany, up to about $54 billion, dollar is for fine, to the network providers, if they do not delete any harmful content online, by any internet or content creators. And we also saw something, relating to that by France and what they call the church. Christchurch Core. In Australia too is doing something like that. So I think what we are doing right now, if it is well done, and then the central coordinating body, is put in place, as I see it provided for between now and in the next 6 months, we should have that kind of a thing in Nigeria. So it will take care of most of the issues we are afraid of or talking about here. But to round off on this particular issue, the next challenge, the next game, is not going to be how popular you are or how physically strong you are. We are seeing that the next war, whether economic war or physical war, is going to be on the cyberspace. We are going to see robots that will do the jobs of human beings. But that means is that the critical infrastructure that we need, if we do not strengthen them, a young man or woman can wake up one day in anger and shut down the planes, or shut down, our, the lighting system and all of those things, and even medical, So we see the development of so many sectors like the artificial intelligence, robotics and all that. So this, for me, I'm really excited about this, because these are some of the issues we'll be talking about at different fora, even with the bigger boss you have in the studio there. So I think, for me, the next one is implementation. I beg government to implement this to the letter so that we can have a saner cyber security or cyber environment.
Thank you. Dr. Bayero, we'll come back to you. Just before we get into aspects of implementation, although the question I'm about to ask is also related to it. In the fiscal world, Abdul Hakim, we hear that security is everybody's business. In cyberspace, is cybersecurity also everybody's business? And if so, how?
Well, it is everybody's business. And it is everybody's business to the extent that you have control of what we call the endpoints. And the endpoints are like your handset. So how secure you keep it, how, what kind of cyber hygiene you practice, to make sure that it doesn't become a tool of bad actors. Because
what is cyber hygiene? Let's let our viewers know that.
Again, basically it means ensuring that you have good passwords, ensuring that you regularly update the system, regularly update the apps you are using, and regularly update, if possible, if you are using tools like antivirus. And the whole idea is that it's similar to human hygiene. If you do not keep good hygiene and you get some kind of infectious disease, obviously you will impact other people.
That becomes like corona.
Yeah. Well, corona is not necessarily a hygiene issue.
No, it's not infectious. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but if you don't put masks,
don't wash your hands.
Don't
it's
wash
hygiene.
your hands. This is it. So it's an analogy. It's analogous. Yes.
You wanted to react?
Yes, I wanted to say something, adding to what he has said. More importantly, is how we give applications permission. Every application mobile app is very invasive. They are all trying to collect data from us. And we know that data is the new currency. Data is everything. The cyberspace itself is a world of data. And so how we grant permissions to applications that we use. Remember, most of the applications are free, but there's no free lunch even in Freetown. So every application that you download that is sort of free has something they're taking from the background. And so always ensure that you download applications that you really need. Turn off by default everything that is not supposed to be used by that app. Most of the app will require access to your contact. You just have to check, does this app require my contact? You turn it off. Most app will require your camera. Does this particular app require my camera to give me service? You turn it off. So this is what we mean by cyber hygiene. And if every one of us take little care, little approach in ensuring that we secure that part of infrastructure we're using that is part of the cyberspace, we'll have safe and secure environment. So just to add about that.
There's a truism, sir. It is said that if something is free, know that you are not the customer. You are the product being sold.
Absolutely.
So I think that's...
While we are still on that, as part of all of these points that you gentlemen have raised, but also says, look, watch out for the app, the things that they probably will be asking for, and so on and so forth. Just reminds me of insurance policy, the so-called small print. That's like the small print, as we call it in law, to say that when you are taking out an insurance policy, the insured usually will look at the big print. And then when the time comes for a claim in any eventuality, then the insurer will now be showing you the small print. There are issues with regard to that in law of insurance. But the same way with some of these apps, you are seeing an app is apparently so versatile, so commonly available. How many users will have the patience? And sometimes when you are opening some of these windows or say on and off, it's like a small print in insurance. True. So how do you deal with that?
Awareness is a major issue, but also it is possible to put pressure on those who maintain the app stores to make sure that they only keep on the app stores those apps that tend to behave themselves. And if I may, coming back to the document, these are issues that we have struggled with. And I am happy to say that we endeavored as a committee to look at all strata of society, be it Malam Meshai, be it Mama Alakara, be it Mama Okba, be it the vulcanizer, because those people are now using these devices. So we've endeavored, we've done our best to really factor them. And of course, we've not left out, the young innovators, the technocrats, and the ultra-high strategic decision makers, because even they, or all of us really, struggle with these kind of issues. So certainly there needs to be more awareness, and this is there. But also, we need to be able to make sure that we encourage those who are developing the apps to make sure that they develop them based on sound, again, global good practice, so that they do not have that level of misbehavior. And so we have to also come up with those kind of mechanisms that will be able to rate some of those apps so that we can encourage, adherence to good practice. Is it easy? No. But I look at it more as a journey. It's a continuous journey, not so much just a final destination.
Abdul Hakim, thanks. But let's bring in Dr. Bayero Agabi on this issue of cyber hygiene that we're talking about, which then gave rise to the equivalent of the fine print that you see in insurance. How does, in terms of individual responsibility in ensuring cybersecurity, how does this play out when you have all kinds of apps and then you don't know which button to press, which window to turn, not window now, I don't know, there's some of those technical issues. They will say, come something, contact off, something. How many persons have the patience to even go through that? And so on and so forth. Some will say allow, don't allow, deny, and so on and so forth.
Seriously and truly, what you are saying is a serious issue. But I see it this way. It's an accountability between the providers of the platform and the users of the platform. This is where, government will have to ensure that what I refer to as cyber responsibility is preached at all levels. So that you cannot, curtail how people, put things, online, and the kind of things they should put offline. So when people are responsible and they know that the kind of things they put online is their responsibility, and the end game, comes back to them. But to checkmate all of this kind of a thing is what government really should just do, and it's pretty simple, is to have an ecosystem or a system in place where the providers of the platform are held accountable for the irresponsibility of the kind of harmful content they put or they carry on their platform. So it's not a game between government and the citizens or the content creators, but it is a game, between the platforms and the content creators. It's for government to say, this is the kind of system with kind of nation, we want to have. This is the kind of same country we want to have, like you have in Dubai, you have in other countries. Okay, so if you're going to create a content that is harmful to others, because all those things you see on the app, you can't be patient enough to read every tiny detail before you download completely. Therefore, the game should be between the providers of the service and the content creators. When we have that kind of game, then we know who to hold responsible when things go wrong. And then another one is awareness, and then how to use the cyberspace for good, how to use it to innovate, how to use it to create, businesses, create, or innovate and employ others and engage, others in such a way that others benefit, and then you're making impact as a person, rather than using it to do things that will hurt another character or another person's business. I repeat it again. If it is bad offline, it should be bad online.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Bayero Agabi. Let's now come back to the studio. You were itching to respond to what he was saying on air right now.
Fundamentally, I think we need to understand the nuances of what happens in the cyberspace. That is very, very fundamental.
Educate us.
Some of the applications you see in the mobile apps are socially engineered. So you need to understand what is the mindset of the developer, what is the persuasion and the motivation. So some are done by default to invade our privacy. And they do in such a way that are very enticing for you to actually download that application. They try to solve a problem for you, and in that trying to solve that problem, behind the scene, what we call at the back end, they have their motive, their persuasion. And so driving the point home is what we call developing the cyber culture. The cyber culture, in the essence that we need to slow down. The end user must take responsibility. No matter how the government waged the war, no matter how the Play Store people hate what war, there are several ways. Remember, these things are just codes. And there are several ways to still hide how we invade privacy of people. And so the most important thing from national perspective is also where research and development comes in. Monitoring and evaluation. At a national level, there should be like several centers of excellence designated to doing certain things. Like when we come to this area, a center of excellence will be actually trying to ensure that advise citizens, the implications of several applications. And so they will do like what NAFDAC is doing, okay? Monitoring all the apps that come, trying to find the security issues associated with these apps, the vulnerabilities, and the kind of invasive nature of the applications. And with that, they can advise the citizens what to do. And then you plug into creating awareness. You cannot create awareness in a vacuum. And this is the emphasis that research and development is key to any activity you are talking about in the cyberspace. Any nation that neglects research and development neglects it to their peril.
Dr. Mbanaso, thanks. Abdul Hakim.
Yes, sir.
Well, in passing, Dr. Mbanaso was saying that we might need, let's say, the equivalent of a NAFDAC. I was just going to ask it this way. Does the policy and strategy document 2021 envisage, for instance, an Inspector General of Cyberspace Nigeria? And if so, what would be the role of such a czar?
Actually, what the policy envisaged is an institutional mechanism. And that mechanism is called the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center. And so possibly whoever heads it would be, in effect, the czar that you speak of. And I think I want to build on the example he gave that, you need those like a NAFDAC. And so those would be the kind of things that the center itself could do. Now, one would argue that probably it would be better for the center to be able to devolve some of these things, because we also have to have some balance between too much concentration of power in one institution. And so the center actually is more empowered to coordinate and facilitate the rise of those kind of institutions. So the institutions are envisaged. The question is whether it is better to have the institution within the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, or to make sure that the Cybersecurity Coordination Center, the NCCC, we call it, actually make sure that that entity comes to pass. Whichever way, there will be something to solve the problem, or to address the problem.
Okay, I'm still staying with you. In the policy, there's so much emphasis on exploring the internet for economic growth, opportunities, enhancement of knowledge, and to mitigate crime. We just heard on the news the Borno State governor saying that they need to use technology, to fight terrorism in the Northeast. Will we be seeing a more proactive approach to doing that?
Definitely. And let me be very specific, because I think we need to also accentuate the positive. The Africa cybersecurity market is envisaged to hit between 2023 and 2025 $4.5 billion. And so as a nation, we have to ask ourselves, what piece of that action are we going to get? what jobs can we create just from the African market? I mean, we'll try and go global, but let's take care of our backyard first. What jobs can we create? What wealth can we generate? And indeed, as a byproduct, and I emphasize as a byproduct, what taxes can government expect? And so it is not people like Dr. Mbanaso and I necessarily that will be taking advantage of that, but people who are much, much younger than us. And one of the beauties of this technology and the opportunities, especially in cybersecurity, is that you don't actually need necessarily to go out to the office every morning. So if you are a girl child from a relatively culturally conservative environment, you can actually work from home. Yeah. You see? So there are many, many opportunities that we are trying to unleash. And it is how best, to go with that. Now, back to the issues of using technology to counter terrorism, for example. There is no reason in my mind why Nigerians cannot develop those technologies so that we solve our own problems, whether it is terrorism, whether it is banking and finance, whether it is even how to educate the girl child or other disadvantaged groups. I mean, cybersecurity, I think, is one of the key tools that our society can use to address these issues. So I think we must also try and move away simply from the defensive mindset to the opportunity mindset.
Abdul Hakim.
Yes,
now, Dr. Mbana, so this question is going to you, but I want to remind Abdul Hakim of a point that he made on Good Morning Nigeria some years ago.
Coming to haunt me.
No, not haunt you. I mean, it's actually to illustrate the significance of the last point he made, which I would like you to speak on. The government of Switzerland was developing some system. And after it had developed it, it now invited hackers, potential hackers, to challenge the integrity of that particular system.
Absolutely.
And whoever was going to succeed in doing that had some tens of thousands of dollars as an incentive. And they went ahead to say, look, this is what we're going to do. Now, when we're talking about cyber security, who should be the lead persons? I mean, if you are going to war, you and I cannot now be foot soldiers. Let's face it. I mean, our age disqualifies us.
Absolutely.
And we have many young persons who are out there, bright and sharp. Some of them, of course, have misdirected their talents, to other areas. But we discussed cryptocurrency on Good Morning Nigeria a couple of weeks ago. And the young men who were with us, via Zoom, also in the studio, the confidence with which they spoke just told you that these guys were global players already.
Absolutely.
So, does the policy and strategy document 2021 envisage how these talents can potentially be identified, harnessed, and groomed as part of our bulwark against cyber threats?
Thank you. This is a very important question. I think to a certain extent, the cyber policy and the strategy actually identified some of these issues. Let me just say, for example, one of the things the policy identified in the weakness and vulnerabilities in the Nigeria ecosystem is capacity building. We have shortage of human capacity. And
with our population?
With our population. And I'm going to come to that. And then over-dependency in foreign ICT. Now, like my very good friend and brother said, we have the competence and a lot of Nigerians to develop everything we need in this country. Even the ones that can go to the moon or sky or any planet. That is the truth about it. But that leadership is very, very key. That's where the governance and coordination comes in. Everything we are doing as a nation must be deliberate, must have an articulated endpoint, rather than just doing it in ad hoc way, like walking in isolation. So that aspect of governance, that aspect of coordination is very, very important in cybersecurity. And as we have echoed many times, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. So coming to how the youths we play in this environment is very, very important. We have a very talented youth yearning to actually do something, but they need the enabling environment. And this is where the tech hubs, the incubation hubs come in, so that they have the accelerated time to market is so quick. Because if you have a tech hub where there is light 24/7, where there is a fiber optic internet 24/7, these guys will be hot doing their codes. Remember, everything we are talking about today in the cyberspace, 90% is coding.
Yes.
So that brings to another aspect. How do we start getting our people? In some climes, they have started teaching people code from primary school. So how do we change our curriculum to be ensure that from primary school, okay, from secondary school, we start teaching them how to code, okay? We start teaching them cyber hygiene, cyber culture, and so that in the next 15 to 20 years, we have a society that is cyber security savvy. And then we'll have a safe and secure environment to thrive, to use the benefits of what the cyberspace provides. So we need to start building the future from today, and not in ad hoc way. It must be deliberate effort and a targeted effort that has some endpoints. So what we need to do is how to be able to tackle the insecurity that is in the cyberspace using our talented Nigerians, creating the technologies that are needed for instance, as a country with almost 200 and something million, we don't have people that produce antivirus. All antivirus we produce in this, we use in this country are all imported. And that takes you to another issue. Every technology you import from a foreign country, there is a potentiality of invasion of your country. And so when we say that a country can be taken down by a click of a button, how would that happen? Because countries are building the capacity and the capability actually to be able to invade countries at a click of a button. And they're building that capability through the antivirus you buy, through the mobile app you download in your mobile phone. So that at a click of a button, your mobile phone will become a weapon to even fight your country. So trying to localize and domesticate this technology is very, very important. And we have to start using our creative use, our innovative use, deliberately and coordinated, and having an endpoint what we want to achieve. So it should be something that have an actionable implementation plan, as opposed to just doing things ad hocly. Just another point before we finish. When we talk about like research in this area, we're just, every institution in Nigeria is just doing it ad hocly. There is actually no focal point. What are we interested in? Like I just said, software is very, very key. How are we ensuring?
Does the policy point in this direction to say, fine, rather than the ad hoc approach, we will now have a more coordinated thing. There will be funding for research. We will source for funding to incentivize research, to incentivize those who actually develop a roadmap or a pathway for enhanced cybersecurity. Do we have that in the policy?
To certain extent, there is some provisions in the policy, but just like Dr. Gabi said, going forward is how we implement this policy and strategy.
All right. Abdul Hakim.
It's all about implementation here now.
It is about implementation, and you raised a critical word, defense. And actually, Pillar 5 is actually about cyber defense. And very specifically, I'm sure you'll be happy to know that at least within the umbrella of the military, under the Defense Headquarters, you have the Defense Space Administration. And that fundamentally addresses outer space and also cyberspace. So in terms of institutional mechanisms, they are being put in place. And also we know within the military, we have a cyber command. So again, back to touch on what Dr. Mbanasoa said, it's not about being ad hoc. First of all, you have to put in some of these institutional mechanisms. That, I'm happy to say, is being done. But not only that, just to note that, yes, under the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, the NCCC, there are mechanisms to try and harness some of the funds from some of these education and technology funds that exist in Nigeria, not necessarily about creating new ones, that now some of it will go definitely to research and development.
Which is, well, I'm sorry, Jumai, I want to ask this question because earlier you threw in the aspect of implementation.
Yes.
From what you guests are saying, yourself, Abdul Hakim, Mbanasoa, and Bayero, there's clearly, for success of a policy document such as this, the need for interministerial and even inter-arm linkages.
Correct.
How much of that do we find in this policy document? How, for instance, will the Ministry of Education be drawn in so that we can start having early cyber education in our curriculum, whether extracurricular or otherwise? And then how, for instance, will you draw in the state governments, the local governments? How, for instance, if you're going to pursue the legal aspect, the legislative aspect, are the lawmakers already been positioned first for their own education before they begin to make laws or even perform oversight functions?
Quick answer is yes.
No. Just give us an elaborate answer. No,
no, but the quick answer is yes. And for example, the NCCC, National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, that name was very purposefully selected because it's about coordination, okay? So that the different sectors still have to manage their own sector. But you need a point of contact so that you are able to build synergies. So it's not about, for example, trying to take away power from the Ministry of Education. No, not only do you have your power, we want to be able to assist you by facilitating your links with, for example, Ministry of Science and Tech. So it's actually about building the synergies. It's about that, and the key word, like I said, is coordination. Because I think many of us have to appreciate that what we are really looking towards is the survivability of the nation. I think people like Bayero have said it very eloquently that at the end of the day, cyber is here whether we like it or not. It's a wave. And so how we survive as a nation depends on how we manage it. That to me is how important it is. But it's not about trying to create a new empire. It's really about how best do we coordinate.
Okay, Abdul Hakim Ajibola, thank you so much for it. Well, before we go to Dr. Bayero Agabi, we would like to take a break. When we return, the conversation will continue.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest asset the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths. scholarships, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria, pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency.
West Brom continue their fight to survive relegation when they welcome Brighton to the Hawthorns. This Saturday, it's West Bromwich Albion versus Brighton and Hove on the Premier League Live, showing on the network service of the NTA from 3:30 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up in association with Gold.com.
You're welcome back, and this is still Good Morning Nigeria, and we are live in Abuja. Dr. Bayero Agabi, you've had our guest in the studio talk about implementation of this policy and how it will help to curb criminality, terrorism, and, you know, raise awareness and educate Nigerians on how best to use the internet. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think there's a one way best method for doing that. But I like to touch on what Dr. Banaso spoke on, because for me it was very, very key. We have to own. When I mean we, I mean Nigeria has to own its cyberspace. But as it is today, does Nigeria have, its own cyberspace? If she does, can Nigeria control or manage its own cyberspace? Because what you don't own, you can't control. What you can't control, you can't effectively manage. Like Dr. Mbanaso just, pointed out, we should not push aside the things that he raised. Most of the OEMs, we have in this country are foreign. And how does cyber attack between nations or nations to nation happen? It is through these OEMs. Okay. So if it's your defense, and then what you have there is HP, Dell, and all of those things are not made with Nigerian spec in mind. And we used to have, the kind of Nigeria OEMs. All of those are dead right now. Okay, so if the software we are talking about, if you need antivirus to fire up the firewalls that you may have, where is the antivirus coming from? Who built the antivirus? So if you do not have such things in place, I don't think, how do you? It's like you don't have a foundation that you are putting a roof. So we really need to take a look at this, because the skills we are talking about it's not just the skills on how to run on the cyberspace, how to create more apps, how to use the apps, so that you can make money or things like that. But at the bedrock of it all are these critical infrastructures. And these critical infrastructures must be that Nigeria, is part of those, engineering. That is why he kept talking about, research and development. research and development will bring about what we can call the Nigeria spec for the OEMs. The phones that we use, there's what we call convergence now. The phones that we use carries camera, it carries the multimedia set and all of those things. Who created those things? The phones that we use also listen to us. Whether you turn it off or you turn it on, the phone, listens to us. So everything that is created, whether a computer or a phone, has an IMEI and all of those things. If it is software, it has an answer that, can preview to everything that you do. And now we have TVs that are smart, so you put it in your home and through the TV, anyone can listen to what you discuss or do in your home. So most of these things are not created in Nigeria or with Nigeria in mind. So we have to also take a look at those things. The Nigeria kind of, OEM should be brought to bear so that we can have the Nigeria cyberspace that we can manage. To have access to the internet in Nigeria, you can do that through various methods, not just, through SAT1 or GLO1. There are so many ways you can get, have access to the internet in Nigeria. So I think we should take a look at this very critical, issue as we set up the National Coordination Point or Center for Cybersecurity. Then the issue of skills that you talked about. Seriously, there's what we call the cybersecurity economy. Mr. Adijora, alluded to that. There's a lot to be made in terms of money, in terms of, developing our economy, because from the skills that you can create, both for men and women, if you take a look at the research that came out very recently, the women fell so short that even in Africa, you hardly can have up to 5% of women, working in that space. That is the cybersecurity space. It's not just to create fear, but it's also an economy to benefit from this cybersecurity space.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Bayero Agabi. Our viewers have been hearing you say OEMs. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. So the plural therefore will be OEMs, Original Equipment Manufacturers. Thank you very much for your perspective. Jumai, we have a number of tweets that have come in. Let's take those tweets and then return to our guests. Yes.
Let's begin with Festus Akimboyewa. He says the national cybersecurity policy and strategy will help tackle cybercrime, cyber espionage, cyber conflict, cyber terrorism, and child online abuse. The localization of training, research, and development is good. We need to get our best young minds into cybersecurity for the policy to succeed.
Dele Jack Solomon, we commend and support the federal government's effort in the overhaul of the national strategy on cybersecurity, urging more emphasis on exploring the internet for economic growth opportunities, enhancement of knowledge, and mitigation of crime. This is the sure way in redeeming our national image and by extension promoting economic growth before the eyes of the international community.
And Mike Kanyako tweets, the national cybersecurity policy is sacrosanct this time around in view of various cybercrimes by unscrupulous individuals. This will greatly protect institutions like CBN, commercial banks, government vital documents, our embassies, etc. The relevant agencies must be on top of their responsibilities to preventing fraud in this regard. Cyber fraud has great potentials in wrecking any economy. The need to fight and preventing it cannot be overstated. There must be a serious reprimand for would-be offenders of these wicked, devilish acts.
Chris Simeon, Nigerians are expecting the national cybersecurity policy as an enabler that will provide a platform for the private sector to harness their potentials for the purpose of national development and to tackle corrupt practices in both the private and public sectors.
Leo Fadaka, with increase in cyber terrorism, Nigeria must update the national cybersecurity policy and strategy in line with global standards, best practice to firewall all leakages, especially in areas of classified, official, confidential security documents.
Greg Kuje, national cybersecurity strategy needs fine-tuning to redeem the nation's image and for fighting corruption through e-governance. The military should also embrace the use of drone technology in fighting insurgents.
And Leo Alpha C, a laudable and timely policy in view of astronomical rise in cybercrime, but implementation of the strategies and legal imperatives for the protection of financial institutions is key to realizing the benefits.
Utulo Sunday, internet should be an avenue to explore economic advancement. Unfortunately, the case isn't quite so today due to some unscrupulous activities. So security policy is a welcome development if properly harnessed.
And Martin says national cybersecurity policy is a welcome initiative. However, it should not be used for witch hunt. It should be targeted at boosting economic growth, eliminating economic saboteurs, and disengage cyber criminals. Social media is not the problem. Check the backers.
Mutana Farouk, cybersecurity needs to be prioritized in this era of technology where the global business activities are conducted online. The national cybersecurity policy should be extended to institutions of learning whereby cybersecurity will be taught in schools. One of our guests also emphasized that.
Yes, and Titus Mondenok, a very good and laudable policy, but just like with other policies, Nigerians would be waiting to see how it would be articulated meritoriously to serve its purpose. There is no time to be security conscious about our cyberspace than now, as most criminality are perpetuated using it.
Motala Olarinwaju, ungoverned spaces in cyberspace or cybersecurity have led to some human rights abuses, that's to say by way of privacy breach. NITDA should embrace proactive measures of monitoring data and content of the providers.
And Usman Banakuntu tweets, while those that have taken cybercrimes as source of livelihood, they should now have a rethink to venture into legal businesses to allow cyberspace hygiene, or else the law will deal with them decisively. A word is enough for the wise.
Ali Ahmed, if we do not secure our cyberspace, we could face something worse than Boko Haram in the cyber ecosystem.
And Steve Bond 007, the cyber law exists, but the judicious implementation without the infringement on human rights is what remains.
Suleiman Babagana, this is a vital move aimed at sanitizing the cyberspace, especially the sectors of banking, communication, homeland security, etc., which have become the order of the day and which, if not regulated, could affect our national security and economic prosperity. All right, those are the tweets that we can take at the moment, quite a number of them. We want to come back to our guests. Now, this has not been cynical, but our national experience has been such that part of the problem that we face to transit from a well-articulated document on which you have spent a great deal of resources, human and material, into the implementation phase and thereby getting the desired result. So we have always the practical challenges of implementation. I was trying to draw attention to one of these earlier to say, look, interministerial, intergovernmental, and inter-arm linkages. How well are these ones spelled out? Now, when you listen to the totality of the views that you have expressed in this so short a time that we've been on this conversation, there are all kinds of issues arising. You need to work with more than one ministry, for instance. You need to, when the Ministry of Education is there, Ministry of Finance, probably also the central bank. We were talking about funding. You're talking about tech hubs. You're talking about providing the enabling environment. I mean, central bank, of course, is funding anchor borrowers program and all kinds of things in agriculture. Does the central bank at the moment have the orientation that, look, this is a potential growth area for maintaining cyber security and therefore what we need to invest? Or is the central bank going to be a late entrant into this field, by which time the cyber policy and strategy document for 2021 will be several years old, awaiting a review, and then, of course, before the central bank comes in, we would have lost some time, if not suffered some harm, assuming we are not careful. How are these disparate arms of government and entities being brought in? I know, Ajibola, you talked about a coordinating center. A coordinating center can only be a coordinating center without powers to give instructions to other MDAs that are virtually independent.
Okay. First and foremost, let me add a complexity. It is actually more about inter-society linkages. It's not just about government, different levels. It's much, much more than that. So that is what we had to consider. Now, there are three key pillars to, well, four, let me say, but three plus one, if I may put it like that, pillars to addressing the implementation challenges, which are real. You have people, process, technology. So under the people, I think Dr. Mbanaso has very eloquently addressed the awareness, the research and development, the teaching and learning across the spectrum. And again, I need to emphasize that this is not simply about some young boys and girls in one university or the other. It is from your street vendor forward, all the way to the president, very bluntly. So under the process, that is where the issues of governance, the institutions and those institutional mechanisms and relationships. And I think one could make the case that the NCCC, under the auspices of the Office of the National Security Advisor, has sufficient gravitas to be able to, let me not say order, but to encourage a greater level of cooperation. And then you have the third component, which is the technology, which, again, both Bairo and Dr. Mbanaso have correctly indicated. We have to understand that it is in our national self-interest to develop our own technology. And so sometimes you find out that if you are able to pitch things as in your interest rather than you must do it, I think that nuance will help. And then the plus one that, in fact, there's a whole section in the document on this, the funding and sustainability. And so what we've tried to do is that, yes, there is a need for government funding. And indeed, under the 2015 Cybercrime Act, there is actually a funding mechanism entrenched within that law. How well it has been activated, I don't know. But so that is a funding source. But we've tried to look at multiple funding sources that, again, as we've said, the infrastructure generally is owned by the private sector. So they have an interest, a self-interest, in making sure that that infrastructure is safe and available, because if it's not safe, people won't trust it. If it's not available, they don't make money. So
alternatively, they could use foreign facilities or foreign equipment as their own backup.
So, and that's where the issue of we have to develop our own technology with the positive value proposition. Again, it's not simply about ordering one telco, you must use this. But if they see that there's a technology that we have developed that we encourage them to look at and they find out the value proposition is actually quite favorable, on their own volition, they will utilize it. So a key issue will be the funding and sustainability. So we've tried to look at mechanisms, because at the end of the day, all of these things together, the key thing is that we must, and we've tried to do this here in the document, is to make sure that we have no single points of failure. So that it's not because of one institution, everybody else is down, or because of one technology. And so we do have to be able to push an agenda that has a multiplicity of alternatives. And that is actually where we are. Because if, for example, Ministry A doesn't deliver, quite frankly, Ministry B will step in, or private sector C will step in. And we're seeing that even with the cryptocurrencies, but that's a story for another day.
All right, Dr. Mbanaso, what are your thoughts on some of the practical challenges of implementation, and therefore what would you like to see?
Well, like rightly said, we always churn out beautiful documents in the country, but when it comes to implementation, that's where we fall short. I think it is the approach, the pragmatic approach. Leadership is very, very important. So whoever heads the NCC is key, because Mr. President will not come down to NCCC to do the job. So the leadership, and that is part of the governance we have said. If you appoint someone who does not understand what it takes to drive the process, the document will be in the shelves. So more importantly, is assembling a team that, one, has the skill set, the expertise to be able to drive the process. Now, what you need to understand is just like playing a football. When you want to play football internationally, you assemble your best team. The problem in the cyberspace is indiscriminate. So it doesn't know who to attack and who not to attack. So any wrongdoing will affect all of us. And so the best way we can actualize some of the good points that have been articulated in this policy is assembling a very viable team that understands the issues at hand, understands what to do, and be able to prioritize. Like you have 8 pillars. What is our priorities? Like in the document, we identified the lack of low level of human capacity. We identified foreign over-dependency on foreign ICT equipment. And then how do we solve the problem? You have identified this problem. So we need to be able to know how we solve that problem in a way that we can measure the progress. So if, for instance, you want to dwell on the aspect of human capacity, there are informal and formal capacity building. And you need all categories of skills to be able to play in this area. You need people who have PhDs, because the PhDs are people who have expertise. They have done extensive research in this area. You need them to be able to drive the process. You need people who have master's degree, the middle managers. You need the hands-on people, who knows how to configure. So you need to be able to define how many of these people do I need. Like, for instance, in the UK strategy in 2010, the first thing they did is that UK will produce not less than 60 PhDs in cybersecurity. So that's the target. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to measure it. At the end of that policy...
You offer them scholarships.
Yes. At the end of that policy, you'll be able to know, did we produce 60 PhD students? They also, in their strategy, they establish almost about 50 centers of excellence in cybersecurity. These are the things we need to begin to articulate. Because when we are talking of research and development, our research and development, like I've mentioned, has to be deliberate, has to have a target, has to have end. And so you designate certain aspect of this center of excellence to be able to carry out research and development in this area. Like in the critical national information infrastructure that we're talking about. Okay, my center has started that. You see, so if by the experience we have got, that you can, incentivize us more, we will be able to have expertise in this area.
And then should this also be, I'm sorry to interject, should this also be a sole federal government responsibility? Or, for instance, state governments can also say, look, we are sponsoring some of our indigents to become cybersecurity experts on PhD programs.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility. Remember we said that.
That's right.
Not only the local government, not only the state government, but the private sectors. The private sectors right now are not playing their role.
If the private sector
likes
comes
of
in...
NTA, ECHO, how many people are there sponsoring?
Just hang on a second, we're getting pressed. If the private sector plays their role, they may then also get tax incentives.
Absolutely. That's how it's done in other clients.
Okay, Dr. Uche, thank you. Let's now go to Dr. Bayero Agabi for his closing comment. It's not all about rolling these policies. It's about implementation and funding and acquiring skills to maintain it. Briefly, let's have your closing comments.
So, just on a closing remark, like others have said, implementation is very key. Leadership is very, very key. And please let us understand what we are talking about. Let's bring it down to people on the street and every other person in Nigeria to understand. What we are talking about is about the management of data in such a way that there is peace and harmony within the cyberspace. What it also means is that if it is not properly managed, my health care data can be given to another person as a diagnosis, and that can lead to death. What that also means is that if we do not have the proper equipment manufactured or Nigerians be part of it, our defense system, if we buy them from China or things like that, China still have a right to manage or moderate how those things will work when the need arises. What that also means is that the issue of creating a digital Nigeria may just become a mirage if we do not protect the digital space the way it should be. So this is my thinking. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Dr. Bayero Agabi, thank you so much for your closing remark. You wanted to say something, Abdulkarim?
A couple of things. First of all, a small complaint, if I may say. Yeah. Our committee is more gender sensitive than your guests' composition today. We had several ladies and a couple of younger people. Which I can say is not really reflected in your guest list for today.
We decided to bring the lead members of the committee.
No, but they were leading, trust me. A couple of things. This document has factored the underserved, the unserved, and even the unborn, because they will have to live with the consequence of it. Anybody that's interested in downloading it, please go to http://cert.gov.ng. It's available free. Download it, read it, and please use it and implement it. Thank you.
All right. On that note, we'd like to appreciate Abdul Hakim Ajijola, the Chairman, Nigerian National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy Review Committee. He's also Chair of the African Union Cybersecurity Expert Group based in Addis Ababa. Always a delight having you on
Thank you very much, sir.
We also would like to thank Dr. Uche Mbanaso, Executive Director, Center for Cyberspace Studies at Nasarawa State University in Kefi. Thank you very much for being around. Thank you, it's my pleasure. We're joined via Zoom by Dr. Bayero Agabi, President, Center for Cyber Awareness and Development, and Vice President, Nigeria Internet Group. Dr. Agabi, we're going to get in touch with you to find out why your connection to us was seamless. No distortion, no interruption. Sometimes we have failures with our guests so that our engineers could also take from that. Okay, Jumai, so that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We appreciate your being with us. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jumai Yusuf. Enjoy the rest of the day.